and this is a quote, a lot of people had access to that Tesla. That's from somebody connected to all of this. And maybe they did, maybe they didn't. But if they did,
Well,
you know,
that would definitely complicate.
From the very start, people online had serious suspicions about David's manager, Josh Marshall. They said he knew Celeste was just 14, yet still pushed her to leave home and move in with him and David. Now the truths come crashing down. Federal agents have arrested Josh after shocking leaked footage appeared to show him forcing Celeste Rivas Hernandez into a Tesla. Prosecutors aren't playing around either. They say he could be staring down life in prison. But to really grasp how things spiraled this far, you've got to rewind to when the warning signs first started flashing. Josh wasn't some random guy. He was the one trusted to handle David's career, to guide him, to protect the brand. Yet somehow, he's smack in the middle of one of the most disturbing scandals the internet's seen. That email wasn't just a casual warning. It came with Celeste's official missing persons report attached, complete with her full details. The message couldn't have been clearer. We know Celeste is living with you guys. She needs to come home. It was a desperate plea from people trying to save a child. And here's the wild part. Just one day later, Celeste actually did show up back home. The family even included the missing persons flyer, stating she was only around 12 or 13 at the time. One witness recalled, "She's a missing person. She's just a kid." And the next day, she came home on her own. That moment proved everything. Josh saw the email. He knew she was missing. He knew she was underage. And he knew she was connected to David, his own client. But then came the twist no one saw coming. Just weeks later, Celeste was right back at that same apartment, living with David and Josh again. No misunderstanding, no confusion, just a straight-up repeat of the same disturbing situation that people had already tried to stop. And the timeline matches perfectly with accounts from those who knew Celeste personally and fought to get her home. But Josh, he kept his mouth shut. Not a word, not a single explanation, while the world demanded answers.
And that they included the missing persons flyer. She's a missing person. She's, 12 or 13 at that time. And the next, I think it was the next day or the day after, she showed up. She just showed up on her own, back home.
Private investigator Steve Fisher, a well-known missing persons specialist who's been tracking Celeste's case from the start, went on Pop Crime TV and didn't hold back. He said the silence coming from Josh, David, and even Interscope Records was deafening. And honestly, he wasn't wrong. That kind of silence wasn't just suspicious. It was chilling. And it didn't stop in 2024 either. Even after Celeste was tragically found dead, Josh hopped online trying to clear his name. He denied everything, said no email ever reached him, claimed he never lived with David, and swore he had no idea what was going on with Celeste. When TikTok users started connecting the dots and calling him out, he snapped back, saying the accusations were baseless and cruel, insisting people were spreading lies without any proof. But this is where things start falling apart for him, because facts don't lie. And Celeste had shown up at his place not once, but twice. That email from February, it worked. It got her home the first time. But when she vanished again, her friends didn't waste time calling random folks. They went straight to Josh. That says everything. It shows they believed he was directly involved, that he knew exactly where she was and what was happening. And from there, this story stopped sounding like some messy PR nightmare. It started feeling like something way darker. Too many coincidences, too many denials, and way too much silence from the people who should have been protecting that girl. When Josh finally decided to speak up, his so-called clarification only made things worse. He doubled down on his denials, said he never received any emails about Celeste, never shared a home with David, and accused people online of twisting the narrative. He went on about being a family man with 3 kids, painting himself as a victim of false rumors. But no one was buying it. Josh finally dropped a statement, and from the tone, he wanted it to be the last word. He wrote, "This is the only time I'll speak on this matter. For now, this has been a tough time for my family, as I am a father of 3 children. I received no emails, and I am no one's roommate. I live full-time at home with my wife and kids. My daughter is 14, and this news is affecting so many lives. I never received any emails. I had zero knowledge of anything. I don't live in California. Also, I work remotely 95% of the time. My job doesn't require me to have much interaction with any of my clients, David, as there are many others that work with him on a day-to-day capacity, not me. This news is tragic for so many and for her family. I hope the proper authorities get to the bottom of it soon. Let me remind people, a lot of this is speculation and alleged. In the meantime, I'm with my family helping them emotionally get through the news of this tragedy. Please report on factual information. Now, on the surface, it sounded like good damage control, a dad trying to shield his wife and kids from chaos. But once people started digging, the holes in his story were impossible to ignore because the facts didn't match up. Not even close. That email, it existed. Investigators confirmed it had been sent directly to him. The timeline, it lined up perfectly. Celeste's friends had reached out to him before when she ran away the first time. And somehow, despite those warnings, she ended up right back under his roof again. And then came the most chilling detail of all, and the M. When police discovered Celeste's body, she was wearing a small bracelet with a single letter charm. M fans online immediately linked it to Josh Marshall. They pointed out that Josh had been photographed multiple times wearing a thick gold chain with that exact same letter pendant. Maybe it was just coincidence, but in a case already filled with strange connections, no one was ready to believe that anymore.
He didn't do it.
Fuck out of here. All the evidence that's out there.
When they gonna let a nigga stay out this long and they got a little bit of evidence? They didn't arrest nigga with way less evidence. If nothing else, put him in jail just to put a hold on.
The LAPD later revealed that her body appeared to have been sitting inside that Tesla for weeks before anyone found it. That's what made the discovery even more disturbing. Neighbors told reporters they had noticed the car sitting in the same spot for a long time, barely moved, collecting dust. Some even said it had been shifted slightly every few days, like someone trying to make it seem occupied. And get this, that Tesla wasn't even hidden. It wasn't dumped in some remote area or buried in a garage. It was parked right there, out on the street, in plain sight. Eventually, it ended up abandoned on Bluebird Avenue. When a tow yard crew was sent to remove it, they caught a strong odor coming from the trunk. That's when police were called. And what they found inside was horrifying. Celeste's body, wrapped tightly in a black bag, her bracelet still on her wrist. When police released the report, the details were beyond disturbing. Celeste's remains had been dismembered, and that's not something you can just brush off by saying, I don't know. That kind of brutality doesn't happen by accident. That's a cover-up, plain and simple. Someone wanted to make sure the truth never came out, but the evidence was starting to speak louder than any denial ever could. Then things got even darker and more specific. A neighbor from the Hollywood Hills came forward with a shocking confession. They said they'd found a Tesla keycard near David's property, just lying there in the gutter. At first, they didn't think much of it and even admitted they picked it up with their bare hands before realizing it might be evidence. Once it hit them how serious that could be, they turned it straight over to the LAPD. That single move added another massive twist, because now investigators had physical proof that tied the vehicle back to someone in David's circle. With all that surfacing, Josh's calm online denial started sounding weak, even desperate. He jumped into comment sections, repeating the same line over and over. Stop creating false narratives and assumptions. I have no cars in California. I don't live with David. I had zero knowledge of anything, but that kind of defense wasn't cutting it anymore. The internet was locked in, and people weren't backing off this time. Social media exploded. TikTok threads, YouTube breakdowns, Reddit posts, everyone was connecting the dots. And no matter how deep they dug, every single line still led right back to Josh Marshall. While he was online typing denials, fans had turned into full-blown investigators, dissecting everything from timelines to tweets. On David's official subreddit, which had over 200,000 members, the energy was wild. Users were dropping screenshots, analyzing his old lyrics that suddenly seemed way too personal, even matching eerie scenes from his music videos to the case timeline. Every post pulled another piece of the puzzle together, until suddenly, things started disappearing. Posts that had been up for hours were vanishing without warning. Entire discussion threads were being locked mid-conversation. People started realizing something strange. Every time the conversation hit too close to the truth, it got deleted. And when Redditors checked who was behind the moderation, they made a jaw-dropping discovery. The only listed moderator of that subreddit was David himself. In other words, David himself was the one silencing the conversation, deleting posts, locking threads, and wiping out anything that made him look even remotely guilty. It was like he was trying to erase the internet's memory of what people were uncovering. But that move backfired, big time. Fans immediately called him out, accusing him of trying to hide evidence and control the narrative. The backlash was so explosive that Reddit had no choice but to lock the entire subreddit. Thousands of posts gone in minutes, and an entire online community shut down overnight. But here's where things took an even darker turn. Once the subreddit imploded, fans didn't back off. They went deeper. And what they found next made this whole story spiral into something truly disturbing. People began sharing stories that suggested Celeste wasn't the only one. Allegedly, David had a pattern. Multiple underage girls connected to him over the years. One user dropped a shocking claim that David had once dated an 8th grader and even took her on trips to Los Angeles. Her friends apparently knew about it, and according to the post, David paid them to stay quiet. That detail hit like a bombshell online, because if that was true, it meant this behavior wasn't some isolated mistake. It was a repeated pattern. And let's be real, if David was going on those trips, performing shows, recording music, and traveling across states, do we really believe his manager had no idea? That's almost impossible. Managers know every move their artist makes, every flight, every booking, every dime spent. So either Josh was turning a blind eye or he was part of something much darker. Then came the comment, the one that sent chills down everyone's spine once people started connecting the dots. Back in February 2024, long before Celeste's death, a TikTok user commented under one of David's posts, "Waiting for LAPD to get your ass for messing with the 13-year-old girl." At the time, people brushed it off as trolling or online hate. Nobody could have imagined how close to the truth it might have been. But now, looking back, that comment feels less like internet drama and more like a warning. Like someone out there already knew what was going on and tried to call it out publicly. The worst part? David never said a word. He didn't delete it. He didn't deny it. He just left it sitting there for the world to see, like he thought it didn't matter. Thousands of people saw that comment, and now that we know what really happened, the silence around it feels haunting. That's when people started digging back into David's old music, and what they uncovered made everyone's stomachs twist in shock. In his video for One More Dance, David played two roles, the killer and the victim. The visuals were disturbing enough when it first dropped, but now, after everything that's come out, it feels straight up haunting. There's a scene where David drags a lifeless body across the floor and shoves it into the trunk of a car. At the time, fans thought it was just dark, artsy symbolism, maybe another example of him trying to push creative boundaries. But after Celeste was found inside the trunk of his own Tesla, that same scene hit like a punch to the gut. It suddenly didn't look like fiction anymore. It looked like foreshadowing. People online couldn't believe it. Was it a terrifying coincidence, or had he actually filmed something that mirrored real life before the tragedy even happened? Either way, once fans saw it, they couldn't unsee it. The internet lit up instantly. TikTok theories, Reddit breakdowns, YouTube exposés. Everyone was asking the same chilling question. Was David hinting at something the whole time? The parallels were too close, too specific, too visual to ignore. But while the internet was connecting dots, one group stayed eerily quiet, his label, Intercope Records. While fans were tearing the web apart, dissecting every lyric and video frame, the label didn't say a single word. Not one post, not one, "We're aware of the situation," nothing. Total silence. And that silence spoke volumes. People couldn't believe how a powerhouse label could stay that quiet when one of their own artists was being tied to the death of a teenage girl, especially considering Intercope's history. This is the same label that once signed Cassie when she was still underage. That alone made their silence look like more than just hesitation. It looked like protection. Were they shielding their investment instead of demanding justice? The more fans thought about it, the angrier they got. Every hour without a statement made Intercope look more complicit. Online, hashtags exploded. People demanding answers, boycotts, investigations, anything. But instead of controlling the fire, Intercope's silence poured gasoline on it. And just when you thought the storm couldn't get louder, it did. The next wave of outrage wasn't just coming for David anymore. It was aimed squarely at Josh Marshall, his manager. People hadn't forgotten about that email, the one warning him about Celeste, the missing persons report attached with all her details. Now, fans were piecing everything together. The ignored warning, the shady denials, the silent label. and it all looked like a web of secrets finally starting to unravel. She told Celeste's family that the girl had been confiding in them about the chaos at home, how she felt trapped and unheard. So when she disappeared, it wasn't surprising that she wanted to run. What was shocking was how fast she went from trying to escape to ending up in the kind of nightmare no one could have imagined. And the proof was already on record. The Riverside County Sheriff's Office confirmed that Celeste had been reported missing 3 different times in 2024 alone. Think about that. 3 separate times before she vanished for good in April. This wasn't just a one-off runaway case. She was a teenager constantly trying to escape something. But here's where things take a darker turn. Josh allegedly knew everything. He knew about her unstable home life. He knew she was a runaway. And instead of helping her, instead of sending her back to a place where she might have been safe, he allegedly used that vulnerability against her. And that's where the shift starts to happen. If the logic being pushed is that the LAPD doesn't have enough to charge David, maybe that's exactly why the Fed stepped in. Because now, it looks like federal agents have finally had enough. Reports say they're coming after Josh Marshall with serious evidence, including what might be video and photo footage taken from inside that Tesla. The kind of proof that doesn't just fuel rumors online, but actually holds up in court. At this point, it's bigger than internet theories or fan debates. A 14-year-old girl lost her life, and the people who were supposed to be the adults in the room, the manager, the artist, even the label, stayed silent until the law forced their hand. Whether Josh was the one who carried that body, or whether he just knew too much and said nothing, the result is the same. A man who was supposed to guide an artist's career is now facing the kind of headlines no one comes back from. If you found this breakdown eye-opening, make sure to hit that like button